Welcome to Gunners Central, your home for the latest Arsenal news. If you true love Arsenal, make subscribe to join the family. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta faced the media ahead of a crucial Premier League trip to Brighton and Hove Albion with the backdrop of a tense title race, growing scrutiny, and renewed belief following hard-fought victories over Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur. And as the press conference unfolded, it became clear that beyond the tactical details and team news updates, the narrative surrounding Arsenal has once again intensified, particularly with just 9 matches remaining and rivals Manchester City refusing to loosen their grip on the chase, ensuring that every word, every selection decision, and every marginal refereeing call is dissected with microscopic focus. Arteta, calm but visibly aware of the stakes, addressed concerns over recent late concessions, acknowledging that while such moments are not typical of his side's defensive identity, there are phases within matches where structural adjustments or opponent quality can produce unexpected scenarios, subtly emphasizing collective responsibility without singling out individuals. The conversation soon shifted toward data and modern tactical evolution, with Arteta highlighting how analytics, global coaching influences, and cross-cultural tactical education have elevated the league's complexity, explaining that the Premier League has become more intricate because clubs continuously absorb innovations from across Europe and beyond, meaning marginal gains often determine outcomes, and this theme of fine margins carried into discussions about emotion, where Arteta suggested that over the last 6 months, Arsenal have deliberately separated emotional impulse from strategic clarity, learning to channel passion productively rather than allowing it to dictate decision-making during high-pressure moments. Team news inevitably dominated attention, particularly regarding Martin Odegaard, whose absence in the previous fixture raised concerns, and Arteta confirmed that the captain's situation would be assessed carefully while Kai Havertz has returned to partial training and could feature depending on final fitness checks, though Ben White remains unavailable, and optimism surrounds Declan Rice, who Arteta described as improving significantly, while David Raya is fit and ready to continue in goal. On Martin Zubimendi, Arteta was full of praise, noting that adapting to the Premier League's physical and tactical demands in his first season while handling an unprecedented workload speaks volumes about his mentality, especially with international commitments looming, subtly acknowledging concerns about player burnout amid an increasingly congested calendar. Refereeing controversies from the Chelsea clash inevitably resurfaced, particularly surrounding official Darren England, whose decisions, including advantage calls and penalty appeals, generated debate among supporters and pundits, and while Arteta avoided direct criticism, the subtext suggested frustration at inconsistencies that can influence tightly contested matches, a theme amplified by discussions involving analysts like Tom Canton and Jake Stokes reviewing contentious moments such as handball interpretations and advantage applications. The broader title race context looms large, especially with Manchester City navigating parallel fixtures against teams like Leeds United and Nottingham Forest, and the psychological duel between Arteta and Pep Guardiola extends beyond league meetings into domestic cup competitions, notably the impending Carabao Cup final at Wembley Stadium, where former Arsenal icon Thierry Henry believes the outcome could influence momentum in the title race, arguing that emotional impact from silverware celebrations or disappointments can ripple into league form, especially when margins are razor-thin. Set-piece debates have added another narrative layer, with critics such as Chris Sutton controversially labeling Arsenal's style as overly pragmatic or ugly, yet supporters counter that efficiency from dead-ball situations reflects tactical preparation rather than aesthetic compromise, crediting set-piece coach Nicholas Jover for innovative routines that have transformed corners into a potent weapon. And Arteta reiterated that scoring from varied methods is essential in a league where open play opportunities are often scarce against deep defensive blocks. Looking ahead to Brighton, Arteta praised their coaching structure and ideological commitment, recognizing that they remain courageous in possession regardless of opposition, which makes the American Express Community Stadium a challenging venue historically, and with cup commitments also on the horizon, including fixtures against lower league opposition such as Mansfield Town following previous ties with Portsmouth, Wigan Athletic, and Port Vale. Squad rotation and pitch conditions become additional variables influencing preparation. Ultimately, Arteta's press conference reflected a manager acutely aware of narrative pressures yet determined to shield his squad from external noise, emphasizing incremental focus, tactical clarity, and emotional control as guiding principles for the run-in, And with every remaining fixture carrying amplified significance, Arsenal's blend of youthful exuberance and cultivated resilience will be tested repeatedly, not just against Brighton, but across domestic and European fronts, as they pursue a title that would mark a defining milestone in Arteta's evolving tenure and potentially reshape perceptions of this Arsenal side from promising challengers to enduring champions. Beyond the immediate focus on Brighton, Arteta also expanded on the broader mental framework required to navigate a title run-in of this magnitude, stressing that consistency in habits often determines consistency in results, and he pointed to how the squad's daily training standards have risen compared to previous seasons, particularly in small details such as defensive spacing during transitional moments and communication during late-game scenarios when protecting narrow leads, an area that has occasionally drawn scrutiny despite Arsenal's overall strong defensive record. He acknowledged that external narratives will continue to evolve, especially with former players and pundits offering contrasting opinions on style, intensity, and aesthetics. But he reinforced that internal belief and alignment within the dressing room matter far more than outside commentary, subtly referencing how unity has strengthened since difficult spells earlier in the campaign. He also touched on leadership within the squad, highlighting how senior figures have stepped forward vocally in recent weeks to maintain focus amid growing noise, while younger players are learning how to channel adrenaline positively rather than letting it disrupt tactical discipline, a development he described as part of the team's education process in competing for major honors. Physically, Arteta confirmed that sports science staff are closely monitoring workload metrics to ensure peak freshness across the final 9 fixtures, especially with high-intensity pressing demands and quick turnarounds between games, increasing muscular strain. And he suggested that strategic substitutions and occasional rotation will not reflect uncertainty, but rather long-term planning designed to keep the squad sharp. Finally, Arteta concluded with a calm but resolute message about ambition, stating that while pressure naturally increases as the finish line approaches, the objective remains unchanged: approach each match independently, execute the game plan with conviction, and embrace the challenge rather than fear it, because in his view, competing for the Premier League title is a privilege that must be attacked with courage, clarity, and collective responsibility. Arteta also addressed the importance of controlling the narrative internally as speculation intensifies around every performance metric, from possession percentages to expected goals, explaining that while statistical models provide useful reference points for improvement, they never replace the human elements of decision-making, courage, and instinct that ultimately shape outcomes on the pitch. He noted that in high-stakes matches, moments often arise that cannot be predicted by data alone, such as a deflection, a sudden tactical shift from the opponent, or an emotional surge from the crowd, and therefore his message to the players is always to remain adaptable within the structure, trusting their preparation while reacting intelligently to evolving circumstances rather than rigidly adhering to pre-game assumptions. He further emphasized the value of composure in hostile environments, particularly away from home, where early setbacks can energize the opposition and amplify pressure, pointing out that maturity is demonstrated not by avoiding adversity, but by responding to it with clarity and belief, something he believes his squad has improved at significantly over the past year. This growth, he suggested, is visible in how quickly the team resets after conceding chances or controversial decisions, maintaining concentration rather than allowing frustration to spread through the group. On the subject of expectations, Arteta acknowledged that competing at the top inevitably changes how performances are judged, with draws scrutinized more harshly and narrow victories dissected for flaws. Yet he reiterated that progress is rarely linear and that resilience across a long campaign requires accepting imperfection while striving for continual refinement. As the season edges closer to its decisive weeks, he made it clear that his focus is not on hypothetical scenarios or title permutations, but on reinforcing daily standards, sharpening competitive edges in training, and ensuring that when the whistle blows each weekend, in other story news. Arsenal make the demanding trip to the South Coast this Wednesday night, knowing that every remaining fixture now carries enormous weight in the Premier League title race as they prepare to face Brighton and Hove Albion at the American Express Community Stadium in a contest that promises intensity, tactical sophistication, and psychological examination, especially given Brighton's reputation for brave build-up play and structured pressing patterns. And after grinding out a hard-fought 2-1 victory over Chelsea, Mikel Arteta's side arrived with renewed belief. 9 matches unbeaten across competitions, and a 5-point cushion at the summit that they are determined to protect. Yet the manager understands that momentum means little without consistency, which is why calculated rotation within his preferred 4-2-3-1 structure is expected to balance freshness with cohesion in what could be one of the trickiest away fixtures remaining this season. In goal, David Raya is set to continue between the posts, and beyond his shot-stopping ability, his distribution will be central to Arsenal's approach, because Brighton typically commit numbers high in the press to disrupt central progression, meaning Raya's composure under pressure and ability to clip accurate diagonal passes into wide areas could stretch the home side's shape early, while his commanding presence on crosses will be tested by Brighton's tendency to flood the box with late runners, and his late save against Chelsea demonstrated not only reflex quality, but also concentration in decisive moments, attributes vital in tight away contests. Shielding him, the central defensive partnership of Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba is expected to remain intact, a duo that has matured into one of the most reliable in the league thanks to Gabriel's aggressive front-foot dueling and Saliba's positional elegance when sweeping behind. And against Brighton's fluid attacking rotations, they must maintain vertical compactness, particularly when midfield runners attempt to exploit half spaces, because Brighton thrive on drawing defenders out before exploiting gaps. And communication between the center backs and the double pivot will be essential to prevent overloads developing between lines. At right back, Christian Mosquera could be handed a significant opportunity, offering athletic recovery pace and defensive solidity, though he must be measured in forward ventures given Brighton's counter-attacking threat, while on the left, Ricardo Calafiori is expected to start, bringing progressive ball carrying and technical calm that can help Arsenal bypass the first line of pressure. And with Jurriën Timber and Piero Hincapié available on the bench, Arteta retains flexibility should defensive adjustments become necessary as the tactical picture evolves. The midfield axis could feature Miles Lewis-Skelly alongside Martin Zubimendi, a pairing that blends youthful intensity with positional discipline. Lewis-Skelly tasked with aggressive ball recovery and transitional pressing, while Zubimendi orchestrates tempo and ensures structural balance when fullbacks advance. And this partnership must remain alert to Brighton's quick third-man combinations that often destabilize defensive blocks, meaning spatial awareness and anticipation will define their effectiveness. Ahead of them, the attacking trio of Gabriel Martinelli, Kai Havertz, and Bukayo Saka provides dynamism and unpredictability. Martinelli stretching the left flank with explosive pace to isolate defenders, Saka drifting infield to combine and create overloads on the right, and Havertz occupying intelligent pockets between Brighton's midfield and defense, seeking to link play and make delayed runs into the box, and their fluid interchanges could disrupt Brighton's defensive reference points if executed with precision and patience. Leading the line, Victor Gyökeres is predicted to spearhead the attack, and his physical presence, intelligent channel movements, and relentless pressing may be pivotal in unsettling Brighton's center-backs, particularly during transitions when Arsenal look to attack quickly after regaining possession, though the bench options of Gabriel Jesus, Leandro Trossard, Noni Madueke, and Eberechi Eze ensure Arteta can alter rhythm and creativity if the match demands late innovation or increased attacking thrust. Brighton themselves remain tactically adventurous, comfortable building from the back even under heavy pressure, and capable of manipulating space through patient circulation before accelerating vertically, meaning Arsenal's pressing triggers must be coordinated to avoid being bypassed too easily. And historically, fixtures between these sides have swung on fine margins, with Brighton capable of exploiting complacency, which underscores the importance of Arsenal maintaining emotional control, especially if the match state shifts unexpectedly. Ultimately, this encounter is not merely about formation or personnel, but about resilience, adaptability, and composure under pressure. Because as the season enters its decisive stretch, Arsenal must demonstrate they can win in varied contexts, from chaotic derbies to structured away battles. And if Arteta's rotated lineup maintains defensive stability while harnessing attacking fluidity, the Gunners will believe they possess the tactical maturity and squad depth required to leave the South Coast with 3 crucial points, further reinforcing their title credentials and sustaining the belief that this campaign can culminate in major silverware. Beyond the predicted starting 11 and structural setup, this match also carries significant psychological importance for Arsenal because the final stretch of the Premier League season is often decided not just by tactical superiority but by emotional endurance, game management, and the ability to control momentum swings, particularly away from home against technically confident opponents like Brighton and Hove Albion, who thrive when they sense hesitation in their rivals. And one of the key areas Arteta will likely emphasize in preparation is transitional control, ensuring that when possession is lost, the immediate counter-press is aggressive enough to prevent Brighton from launching direct vertical attacks into space, especially down the channels where quick wide players can isolate fullbacks in 1-versus-1 situations. Another layer to consider is how Arsenal manage tempo across different phases of the match because Brighton typically attempt to draw teams into frantic exchanges before exploiting positional disorganization, meaning players such as Martin Zubimendi will be vital not only for defensive screening but also for calming circulation, dictating rhythm, and ensuring that Arsenal can slow the game when necessary, recycling possession patiently before accelerating through sharp combinations between Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz in advanced zones. And this balance between control and verticality has increasingly defined Arsenal's maturity under Arteta in high-pressure scenarios. Set pieces may also prove decisive, as Brighton are known for innovative routines both offensively and defensively, which places heightened responsibility on aerially dominant figures like Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba to assert physical authority inside both penalty areas, while delivery quality from wide areas must be precise to capitalize on any defensive lapses. Equally, discipline will be critical, because conceding unnecessary fouls and crossing positions could invite sustained pressure late in the game when energy levels begin to drop. There is also the broader strategic vision to examine, as Arsenal's recruitment and rotation policy this season has been designed not merely for immediate results but for sustaining performance across multiple competitions and introducing younger or rotational figures such as Miles Lewis-Skelly in high-stakes matches signals trust in depth while preserving legs for upcoming fixtures, reinforcing the idea that the squad is being built with resilience and longevity in mind rather than short-term fixes. Should the game remain level entering the final quarter, the impact of substitutes could swing momentum dramatically, with the intelligent movement of Gabriel Jesus capable of unsettling tiring defenders, or the creative spark of Leandro Trossard providing unpredictability between lines. And these options underline the competitive internal environment Arteta has cultivated, where tactical flexibility is supported by personnel capable of executing varied roles without compromising structural identity. Ultimately, this fixture will test not just Arsenal's starting formation, but their collective game intelligence, emotional regulation, and adaptability across 90 demanding minutes, because sustaining a title push requires mastering different match narratives. And if they demonstrate composure under Brighton's pressure while maintaining clinical efficiency in decisive moments, the journey back to North London could represent another defining step in what is shaping into a season built on belief, discipline, and incremental progress toward major honors.